that fading would begin, where it becomes a two-person race?
Well, you know, I think Roger's 100% right about the fact that, you know, you take these polls and you say, okay, this is interesting, but the caucus isn't until January 3rd. Look, I think we saw a ton of movement in 2004 in the last month of this race, heck, in the last 2 weeks of the race. I think people really start to pay attention, really start to make up their minds in a real way in the last couple weeks. I think that's when we might see John Edwards eroding, if he's going to erode.
And you're seeing that.
Look at the big story this week. Here's the big story. I got to show you this story. Here's a clip from yesterday, Sunday, of Barack Obama going after Hillary Clinton over that Bob Novak story over the weekend that talked about some kind of dirt the Clinton people have on Barack.
The Clinton campaign didn't come out and deny it initially. I mean, it would have been great if we had just sat back and they'd indicated it wasn't true. This is a syndicated columnist who is carried in the Chicago Sun-Times, among other newspapers. And no, I wasn't indicating that Mike was with the Sun-Times, but the point is that these kinds of things get wide circulation, and we've seen how stuff starts, and if you don't nip it at the bud, then it ends up growing. And you know, we want to make sure that everybody understands I don't play this stuff. And I won't.
Roger, why is Barack Obama getting so hot on this thing? Why is he driving this? Is this for offensive reasons or defensive reasons? Is he making a big issue about that column that ran on Saturday from Bob Novak about the rumor that's being pushed, he says, Novak being pushed by the Clinton people about some scandal they've got on Barack, but don't say what it is?
I think there's two calculations. One, that it changed the conversation, as you said at the top, away from a not stellar debate performance by Barack Obama. Again, the candidate is speaking personally on this. We don't often see candidates getting into toing and froing on scandal stories. But the campaign has put Barack Obama out himself, speaking in his own words, attacking Hillary directly, and once again tying her to the politics of old Washington, tying her to the old ways. He is the new face of politics. The old ways won't do, and that is the gain that he is getting, and I think that's why his arrow is up for this week.
Let's talk about, I want Chris to talk about Hillary Clinton this week. When I watched that debate last week, coming into this weekend with all this argument about slime tactics and everything, I was shaken by how willing the Democrats were, led by John Edwards, but also Barack Obama, and also some of the other candidates like Chris Dodd, willing to take on Hillary on the character issue, the kind of thing that can be used effectively by Republicans next fall against her. They are giving them a record to run on against her.
Well, Chris, I agree with you. And remember, John Edwards is a former senator. He's run for president already once unsuccessfully. He knows that this is probably his last best shot. So I think he's going down swinging as it relates to what he thinks about politics, what he thinks about Senator Clinton. And I think you've seen him leading the charge. Barack Obama has gotten some of the credit for it, frankly, but I think John Edwards has really led, at least rhetorically, the charge in debates and elsewhere to go after her in both a political but also a personal way, and sort of evoke the most response from her. So I think you see that. The other one who's done it is Obama. And frankly, look, Obama is somebody who spent 2 years in the Senate. He's not Chris Dodd. He's not Joe Biden, who spent decades in what is a very friendly, congenial atmosphere of the Senate, working together with Senator Clinton. He's someone who, again, he doesn't play by those rules. He has nothing to lose by this. He sees his future as only positive. So I, too, think he is going to paint this in a real and substantive way as a choice between the way in which politics has been conducted in the past, represented by Hillary Clinton, and the way in which it can be conducted. We've talked about this before on the show, Chris. I think if Barack Obama can turn this into a movement, if he becomes a movement, not just a candidate, no one, including Hillary Clinton, can stop him.
Well, let me ask you, Roger, the question about Hillary Clinton this fall. I think I know why Hillary Clinton got really ticked off at Edwards this week in that debate. The CNN debate, and I think she got ticked because she realized that Edwards was writing the script for Republicans next year. When he turned to the issue of corruption and started to put that harangue against her, that riff against her, he was writing something that we've seen, as you and I, a million times, where your primary opponent writes the script for the general election, and then tied together with the fact that she's running even right now, despite the low numbers for right direction of the country, despite the low, terrible numbers, basement numbers for this president, the Republican president, that Rudy Giuliani and the other Republicans are still running even with her right now. She must be worried about this general already.
But this is why attacking is risky in a primary. You are giving ammunition to your opponent in a general, and primary voters don't like it. Democrats, especially Democrats in Iowa, want to see Democrats attacking Republicans, not Democrats attacking each other. And if you go too far, then you risk a backlash. You don't want to make Hillary Clinton a victim. You want to make her a front runner who is not inevitable but can stumble. And you want to move past her right in those last few days, as Chris indicated, before the caucuses are held. You don't want to beat her up to such an extent that primary voters are saying, hey, this isn't why we're Democrats. We don't want to kill off each other. We want to get a strong Democrat who's going to beat the Republicans in November. And that is what Hillary Clinton has going for her. She is still the most electable Democrat according to the polls.
All right. That's true. Let's switch over to the Republican side. Chris, you first. It looks to me like Huckabee is starting to pick up speed out there in Iowa. I'm looking at it from an East Coast perspective, but for some reason the country folk like his position on gun rights. They like his religion. They like him.
Well, Chris, I think we've been waiting and wondering whether there was going to be someone who was going to unify the social conservative bloc of voters in Iowa in particular, where they have a lot of say. We thought it might be Romney, and he's certainly ahead, and I think he's getting a portion of those social conservatives. When Thompson got into the race, we thought, oh, well, Fred Thompson, look at his record. He's the consistent conservative. Even though, as you mentioned, he got the National Right to Life endorsement, it doesn't feel as though social conservatives are coalescing around him. Could it now be Huckabee? I think polling suggests it might be. I think it's too early to draw any hard and fast conclusions. But look, he is someone who's a Baptist minister. I think he speaks their language on these social issues. The question and the potential problem for Huckabee is fiscal conservatives, led by the Club for Growth, a D.C.-based organization, are very skeptical about his tax record. Does that cloud the unifying of conservatives behind him?
Got to go. Hey, gentlemen, you have to go now. Chris Cillizza, thank you, sir. Thank you, Roger Simon, as always.